Hi, I'm Ross.
And I'm James.
And we are going to be talking about The Dark Knight Rises, the final entry in the Dark Knight trilogy. This one is one that I have fluctuated on a lot over time because when I first saw it, I was 14, so of course I liked it. And over time, I kind of liked it less. And I've arrived at this point where I think it's just kind of fine.
Yeah, the last time I saw it complete and full was in theaters, also when I was 14.
I haven't watched all three back to back in a while, and I think this one in isolation doesn't really work, but in the context of the whole trilogy, it does feel like it makes more sense, even though there are individual aspects of it that make absolutely no sense at all, have never made sense, and will never make sense.
It has to be put back.
I think this is the Christopher Nolan movie that Christopher Nolan's Too Close to the Sun in many ways.
A little bit.
I do think also it's a bit of a tough sell because how do you top the last one? I mean, this was probably not the first version of this movie that was going to be made. Given Heath Ledger's tragic passing, you can't bring the Joker back, obviously, but I imagine the plan was to bring Joker back.
Bane's plan felt a lot more like a Joker plan.
Yeah, they do bring the trilogy as a whole full circle by bringing back the League of Shadows, connecting Bane and the reveal of Talia al Ghul, and that stuff is fine. Like, I don't really think that you needed to do that to make this story work and to make this trilogy feel complete in that sense. Again, because it's the third part of a trilogy, I'm sure they felt obligated to tie everything together, but I kind of felt like the whole League of Shadows thing, that was kind of done.
I see the power of belief. I see the League of Shadows resurgent.
It's a question of spectacle versus context. And all the big action sequences in this are really compelling and well shot. And Christopher Nolan's desire to keep everything grounded, not only in reality in terms of the narrative, but also in terms of what you're seeing and what the characters are interacting with, I think adds a lot to this trilogy.
Yeah, definitely. Christopher Nolan knows how to make a movie look good.
The problem is that the context for what gets you to those moments is often very dumb.
This bomb is mobile, and the identity of the triggerman is a mystery.
I didn't expect this version of Bane. I guess this is a more grounded version of Bane in a way. He's big, he's tough, he's got that cool mask, he's got the voice everybody ended up falling in love with.
Of course.
And I do like his jacket.
The jacket looks cool.
It's very, he's a cool looking guy.
Yeah, it's a very nice action figure. The character has never really clicked for me. Bane doesn't really have a lot to him as a character because he's kind of just the mouthpiece for a villainous perspective we already heard.
I'm here to fulfill Ra's al Ghul's destiny.
Well, I also don't think that Bane in general is very cool. Your interest in Bane as an audience member will depend on how cool and intimidating you find him, and the voice never worked for me as like whoa, this guy's scary. The fight scenes I find really uninteresting. Like, I've always thought they were really boring and just kind of nothing. The final fight especially falls pretty flat. It's just like 15 punches get exchanged and then Bane's just done.
But he's not the child of Ra's al Ghul. I am.
I appreciate a nice twist here and there, but Bane being the super competent guy that he is, and then all of a sudden it reveals that he's also not the main villain. It's Talia.
I think it does kind of rob Bane of the power he kind of has, that he's just a henchman in the end for this lady, some lady we just met.
My father's work is done.
Bane and his soldiers and the perspective he represents are very clearly supposed to be the working class rising up against the corrupt upper class. But Bane's also a really evil man with a big nuclear bomb. So it feels a little bit disingenuous in terms of representing class struggle.
Yeah.
And the fact that the final image, the big heroic image we're all supposed to believe in, is an army of cops running at the armed working class. I don't know what this is supposed to mean, really. It's clearly saying something, but I'm not sure even Christopher Nolan knows what he's trying to say here.
Take control. Take control of your city.
I like this movie, I would say, without much emphasis or, passion, but I like it. It's okay, but there is just one too many stupid things that occur that I just can't really wrap my head around. It feels like all the focus is being put on the uninteresting things. I think it also cribbed a few too many notes from The Dark Knight, but didn't quite do it right. There's 1,000 little characters you meet across Gotham, and you see them over the course of the months that go by, and I just don't find any of these characters as interesting as the characters in The Dark Knight were, and also they don't really have as active of a part to play in the action. It feels like there's just a little too much going on, which feels like a weird complaint because The Dark Knight had so much going on, but things just felt more balanced there.
Tomorrow you claim what is rightfully yours.
We've seen different facets of Gotham across the trilogy, and I do like the no man's land Gotham, but it feels like, again, we never really see the interesting parts. We just see a bunch of stuff get smashed, and then people sitting around like fires and then just delivering rapid fire exposition.
I would have been really interested to see the civilian aspect of No Man's Land, like in Gotham during like the months that it was, taken over.
Yeah.
But it was only about, the cops and the people in charge and Bane and all this stuff. It never really talked about the, the working class people.
Yeah. I also would have liked to see some of the citizens of Gotham in that final battle.
Yes.
Like join the police in their charge, maybe, to show the people of Gotham do something.
Like they did in the last movie.
You would think.
You think all this can last? There's a storm coming, Mr. Wayne.
Selena Kyle in this doesn't really do anything for me. Anne Hathaway's fine.
Yeah, she's a good actor.
It's an Anne Hathaway performance. She's good. I don't really buy her as like the greatest love of Bruce's life either.
I didn't buy their relationship.
The romance in these movies has never been particularly strong in any regard, but I think that this is the one that really strikes me as like, really? Also, Batman's death is very stupid. That's detonation. But it's okay because Joseph Gordon-Levitt, some random guy, is now Batman.
He's Robin, baby.
He's Robin.
He's Nightwing.
Well, I don't know. He's not Robin. He's named Robin.
You should use your full name. I like that name. Robin.
I think a lot of it too is like, this is what it all built up to. The scale of Batman Begins is similar to this in terms of the city will be destroyed, but The Dark Knight ends with like a conversation. It feels like too much, which is odd, like too much for a Batman movie, which basically has no limits.
I mean, I just don't think they're going to make something as good as The Dark Knight.
No, and I'm sure they felt very pressured by that.
Oh, yeah.
This is hardly the first comic book movie trilogy to falter on the third one. Overall, it's a pretty cohesive trilogy. I don't think there's really any loose ends narratively or thematically that are left untied. Is this a good ending for Batman, though?
From the second movie, he's wanted to retire.
Yeah, that too.
So I'd say for this specific Batman, like, yeah, because now Bruce Wayne is dead and he can just live his life as a normal man without any money, I guess. But that's good for him. He'll figure. I mean, he did it for 7 years anyway, so he's used to this.
The Batman nerd in me is saying, like, Batman wouldn't just give up. But I mean, it does work for the movie. It makes sense.
Actually, they're letting me keep the house.
The rich don't even go broke the same as the rest of us, huh?
It's quite simply just the weakest of the three, and that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Like, this doesn't reach the heights of Batman Begins. I don't think it even comes close to touching Dark Knight. A lot of the ideas in this movie make a lot of sense in terms of, like, setup and payoff. I'm like, oh, I see how they get from there to there, and I see how this moment leads to this moment. But often the payoff is just kind of dumb. It's a movie I wish I liked more.
Yeah.
I would call this the worst of the three, but I wouldn't give a lot of like negative connotations to that.
Yeah.
It's the worst by virtue of being a sequel to two very good movies.
It's the least powerful of the three.
Yeah, the least interesting, the least effective. I wish it was amazing across the board, but you got this weak kind of thing hanging off the end, and you don't really need The Dark Knight Rises.
It's like a pinky finger.
Yeah. Well, I like my pinky finger.
Yeah,
I would keep it.
You could get rid of it if you
Yeah.
you don't need it.
Much like The Dark Knight Rises. I like it. I'm not crazy about it. There's some good things it's done. Can't think of one. But also weird that Batman never threw a batarang in The Dark Knight or The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah. His little device that can control and bring bats to his location in the first movie.
Yeah.
Could have used that.
No one's ever gonna know who saved an entire city.
They know. It was the Batman.
I think this was a pretty good reinvention of Batman, though.
Oh, yeah.
I like having a nice contained trilogy about one character, and I think as a whole, the trilogy's greatest strength is that throughout it is about Batman as a human being. I like seeing the more human, vulnerable side of Batman. I like that there's a villain who can just beat the piss out of him and break him in two. And like that does feel like a moment. But this is a story about how Batman needs to be Batman so he can beat up the bad guy. And that's just not as interesting to me as a narrative. Like if the only goal is Bruce Wayne will put the suit on again and punch the bad man in the face to stop the evil bomb, it just feels a little thematically like childish in comparison to The Dark Knight. I don't feel like Batman is particularly challenged in this movie on any level besides the physical, and because the fights are lame and I find Bane unintimidating and kind of dumb, none of it really clicks for me as a threat.
But we are initiated, aren't we, Bruce? Members of the League of Shadows.
A little uneven, a pretty meh finale, but with some bright spots.
And also, we can't forget the best actress in the entire movie, Joey King.
Honestly, Joey King, from this to The Kissing Booth, talk about a fucking upgrade.
I know, right? Jeez.